So, hello everyone, and welcome to this channel again. My name is Noora. I am an energy healer and a life coach with a spiritual twist. And today I have a very interesting guest. Thomas, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever and whenever you are. My name is Thomas Janak. I'm originally from Germany, but I've been living abroad for 22 years now. 12 years now I've been living in England. And for the last 4 years, I've been living in a much smaller place called Cannock. And we have an area of outstanding natural beauty, just literally 10 minutes from me away. Where people can find me a lot making noise with drums, you know.
Cool.
And so when it comes to introducing myself, I always find that difficult because I'm just a guy with a weird job, I suppose. And I've never really been super interested in labels either.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because I was when I was 5 or 6 years old, I had animals come up to me and I could hear them speak. And
Right.
later on I found out that the animals in question wouldn't know. So they were sort of the avatars, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I had no idea what that all meant. All I knew is that when I mentioned it, my father thought I'm not right, and he brought me to all these weird doctors. you know. Um,
Yeah.
so a lot of stuff that happened to me, especially sort of shamanism, it just came to me, if that makes sense. And I truly believe that the universe sort of chooses you,
Yes.
if that makes sense. So when it comes to titles, I'm not quite sure. um,
Yeah.
because people always ask, people think there is some sort of 2, 3 people inside you, and it's not. And at the same time, I do a lot of spiritual work. I mean, I'm self-employed.
Hmm.
And then there are days where I just need a break, and I literally do nothing, and I listen to Megadeth, and then I watch Star Trek, and I listen to spiritual music, and that all happens in the same day.
Yeah.
So I'm
Exactly.
just as weird as anybody else,
Yes.
you know.
Definitely.
And so
Yeah, and it's always very difficult if you put yourself in a box like this is how I am,
absolutely,
because that's the moment
yes,
you start limiting yourself. So we are actually just like everyone are expressions of the bigger energy, and we
absolutely,
have like many sides in us, and we are here to explore the beauty of the life. So
absolutely,
why
yeah,
why not to enjoy it in the fullest? Yeah,
absolutely, yes,
exactly. So yeah, you mentioned that you do shamanic healing at the moment. So
yes.
do you want to tell a little bit about where that comes from? What is the tradition that
Okay.
you practice? And you already mentioned the origin story.
Yes, I just think it's really important, because there's literally over 30 different types of shamanism, and a lot of
Hmm.
people literally associate the term with Native Americans. And a lot of the work that I do that is based on Native American ideas or ideals is mostly what is called animism. So you look at
Right.
animals and then look at them or communicate to them, learn from them. So because they have been here longer than we have, they are teachers. But there are
Yes.
so many different ways of doing certain things, which is why I think the origin story is important. And it's not to be confused, because a lot of people think that the origin story um, has to do with when did we come out of Africa and where did we go there.
Hmm.
And the point is, when you look at it from a shamanic standpoint, the idea is that we're only part of Earth. So the story starts before we came here. But because
Hmm.
us humans, we take ourselves so seriously, when did we get somewhere? So we already identify ourselves as human, and then we ask ourselves, where am I from?
Yeah.
And the origin story is quite an interesting one, because when I talk to other people that do any sort of shamanic work, they all know the story, if that makes sense, and everybody knows
Hmm.
slightly differently, which is also
Yeah.
perfectly fine because it's just a story. you know, I mean, how much truth there is in there, everybody has to decide for themselves. But the origin story literally says that we come from the stars, and it's
Hmm.
interesting because even science knows we come from the stars.
Yeah,
right?
true.
And so the origin story is that we come from a place called the Pleiadians, and there is a place called the Seven Sisters
Mm-hmm.
close by, and there's even a story about the Seven Sisters, how they came about. But the point is that when I take people back on journeys, because I do circles, for instance, and every now and then when I want them to reconnect to who they truly are, I take them home. So we're going and do a journey to the Pleiadians, and then there are
Nice.
these 7 foot tall see-through guides, for want of a better word, and then they tell
Mm-hmm.
us, I'm you, you're me. You just look different now, kind of stuff. But they also
Beautiful.
tell us, you can't stay here. You have a job to do. You agreed to be down on Earth, so don't come and visit me every day. But the origin story is that only the sort of maybe the weirdest, maybe not, only the the most curious souls have signed up for the Earth experience. So we come from the
Hmm.
stars, and then we came here on this planet in a cloud in the shape of a whale as specks of dust. So we weren't fully formed. Right?
Hmm.
And the interesting thing about using the whale as the explanation, so then in not just Native American, but a lot of people that are of shamanic thought, therefore call the whale the first mother. And the
Interesting.
whale is the only animal, only mammal, so to speak, that is so deep that it had to grow an extra lobe. It's called a paralimbic lobe, just to deal with the emotions.
Hmm.
So we came here before we were us. We came here already super emotional, which is
Right.
why we are so um, that's why we're so affected by the moon, because the moon
Hmm.
governs our emotions. So the point is, it's all connected. So the point is, we
Yeah.
came here and we ended up in the water first, and then we became specks of dust, and then evolution happened.
Yeah.
So
True.
so from that point of view, we are primates, right?
Yes.
But at the same time, when you look at it and try to explain it historically, obviously, you know, it's not logical that we lost our hair before we could make fire,
Hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
so it makes sense when people then say, like, have we been interfered with? Because that's the other side of shamanism, is to understand that we have been visited, and whoever these visitors were, you know, also influenced our DNA. So we are not
Yeah.
native, and we are more than what we seem we are,
Yeah.
which is
So
why
so
which is why
so it.
this which is why this is so difficult to live on a planet that is inherently racist,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
Which,
And you so you support the theory that actually there was like a genetic manipulation
mm,
in the earth for the human race, that we are part of the kind of the grand experiment here.
yeah,
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 yeah.
cool.
It is
And that's
it's a logical thing where you kind of,
yeah.
when you really look into animals, as and I did this because this is my rockstar life, but I'm an animal psychologist and I only work here. And a couple of years ago, my guide said to me, "You have to work with primates. You have to study primates." And
Mm,
I said to them, like, "You're out of your mind. Leave me alone." Right? Because I live in England. Where do I even get to see a primate? Anyway, I
right.
studied primates, primatology, and when you look at these beings, for want of a better word, it takes you 1 or 2 modules in, you realize, wow, they're us, I'm them, you know.
Mm,
And the good thing about thinking outside of your comfort zone and looking at things that you or a lot of people maybe think it's less, animals are less than humans, that kind of thought that people have,
mm,
it it really teaches you that we're all connected somehow, and it
yes.
helps you change your perspective, which is what
Yeah.
all spiritual healing is to say
Yeah.
to people, change your perspective first. You can be
Yeah.
depressed, but you can be depressed and do something about it. And
Yeah.
I mean, I get it, depression is a chemical imbalance, so there is a truth to that too, but attitude is everything.
Yeah.
So what I
Definitely.
often use in my work is I use humor. So I had a person come to me years ago, and she said, I wanted to kill myself this morning. And I said to her, well, at least you paid me up front. And, and she started laughing. I said, look, you came in a car that would have killed you 10 times over.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
came through traffic. You wired me 50 pounds for a treatment. If you want to die, why involve me? And that's when she started thinking, oh, I am here. You're right. So it's about, oftentimes before you do any work, it's about redirecting people to understanding that they're not as lost as they feel they are.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know,
very often people get just like too lost in their own perception. That is very weird.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the other problem that we're having is that we're not necessarily taught to take responsibility of our own lives. So every time we have a headache, we go to a doctor. You know, there's always, and I'm not knocking doctors, but there's always a third party involved. That sort of helps us. And one of the things that we do when we do spiritual work is we do the shadow work first. So we fall apart 10 times over, because it's called the concept of the wounded healer. The more crap you have in your life, the easier you can empathize with people. So in my mind, we're all some sort of counselors, no matter what we do.
Yeah.
Right. So
definitely.
And I think there's a logic to this. Again, there's this idea that we come here and have all these different lifetimes. So there's a predetermined amount of lives. How many lives is anybody's guess, if that makes sense? Shamanically speaking, the idea that the south node and the north node of the moon, they denote a 26,000 year timeline.
Yeah.
So
it's the grand year, right?
Yes,
it's called
absolutely.
The grand year.
They call it the grand year. And what happened then is when you then divide the 26,000 by an average lifespan of 70, you get about 350 lives.
Yeah.
But there have been so many times where people didn't get old, where they died as infants, or you can be born as an animal. And you have maybe, when you're being born as a butterfly, you have a 9-week lifespan. So the numbers, therefore, are very difficult to determine. But on the other side, is it really that important to know how many lifetimes I'm in? That's the other thing. When people say, like, I want to know how many lifetimes I'm in, it's because they're really frustrated. They're fed up. And I've had people saying to me, like, oh, I know I'm not coming back. And then I kind of go like, yeah, but you just got angry 5 minutes ago. And for as long as you get annoyed by some crap that happens in your life, you're obviously not there.
Ready. Right? You are not there yet.
And that's another thing that people don't sometimes like to hear that. But the good thing is, because I have a German accent and we have a reputation, and England is a very, people here, they don't. I can bump into people here and they apologize. It's a very, very friendly, very polite country. So I get away with being loud and obnoxious, and I'm using it in my work. Because my work is, when people come to me, I want them to really go deep so that we can actually change stuff.
Yeah.
So I tell them, you don't have to be polite. You just have to follow what we're doing here, and it does help.
Yeah, definitely. And humor always helps. Like even in the old times, in the courts of the king, the only one who could joke about the king was the what is the Joker, or the guy with the hat?
Absolutely. Yes.
Absolutely. So that was like criticism hidden in a nice way.
Absolutely.
So and the Japanese people could see.
The Japanese did the same back in the day. They would have theater plays, and they would invite in the emperor. And then you had a guy, and he had two buckets on his shoulders, and he would run left and right. And they would say, why are you running left and right? Because the roof leaks. Because they couldn't say to the emperor, the roof leaks, fix it. Right? Because you don't talk to the king like that, or to the emperor like this. But the emperor is supposed to see what the people needed. So bringing it in a theater play meant to save face.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
It's still very human, don't bite the hand that feeds you, that kind of stuff. you know. But you look into different cultures, and we all have that same thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
So and I quite enjoy things like this as well, when you realize what the background is,
Yeah. Definitely. And people, they want to know the truth and they want to really face themselves, even though it's sometimes very hard to
Absolutely.
admit that I'm not perfect and I do mistakes. But like the moment actually you can, as a healer, to step up and show themselves like where are they truly at, that's like
Absolutely.
usually super valuable, and
Absolutely.
that's the biggest gift you can do.
And also
So
the very fact that people are thriving for perfection. Perfection is a man-made term.
yeah,
You know.
and
So who
it's
decides what?
delusional.
Yeah, and who decides what's perfect? You know,
Exactly.
and things don't have to be perfect. You know.
And like the only thing you can be is to be imperfect, because
Absolutely.
that's the only place where you can grow,
Absolutely. And there's
right?
beauty. There's beauty in that too, because you're still evolving. You're still growing. Imagine
Exactly.
if there was nothing left to do. How boring would that be?
That would be super boring.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. So let's go back to your path. Like how did you said that you were really early, on your childhood, you were already communicating with the animal
Yeah.
spirits,
Even
and
though
you had
I
like,
didn't know it, I didn't know it then. So I come from a place called Offenbach, which is next to Frankfurt,
yeah,
and we always call it Frankfurt because it's sort of the same place. And
yeah,
because of the airport in Frankfurt, they every time they did something with the runways, they had to plant trees. So we have massive trees around Frankfurt, and they're the loudest forests in the world because they have the airport going over. I didn't hear it because I lived there. You know, you don't hear it anymore. But the point is, I
mm-hmm,
would spend a lot of my youth just going to the woods. You know, sitting there, playing with
mm-hmm,
whatever came along, kind of stuff. And I remember my mom always saying to me, "Don't go to the woods," right? And I did go anyway. That makes sense. And then I could always hear these animals talk to me. And
mm,
the weirdest thing that ever happened to me is that some birds came up and they told me when I'm an adult I will go to England,
mm,
and I had no idea what that meant. And they also told me I have to meet my twin flame, and I didn't understand what that meant either. Anyway, so I went from the forest home, and I said to my mom, "And I'm a grown up, I go to England." And her very German response was, "It's always raining there. Why don't you go to Spain?" Right? And then she was like, "Who told you this?" When I then told her that the birds told me,
mm,
that's when the trouble started with me being a weirdo. So
yeah,
you get discouraged quite a lot. And to be fair, I left Germany 22 years ago in 2000, and I only really became who I am abroad. And
yeah,
people who actually held me back in Germany or made me feel less because of my perception of things.
yeah.
Every now and then I do go back to Germany to give workshops in German, which are much longer than when you do them in English. It's a
Yeah,
really weird language. In anyways, so people that have held me back are now coming to my workshops and paying. So they just had to get there themselves,
yeah,
if that makes sense, which is strangely gratifying.
yeah. And also they had to see that you are doing it. You had to be the example, and you
Yeah,
had to
but I
walk
had to
your
be,
talk.
but I had to be away,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and
that's true.
and I always say that to people. You know, you're really never too old to
Yeah,
make these changes. I was 33 when I left Germany, which is sort of pretty late.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then I didn't go to England. I went to Ireland first. So I spent 10 years with the Irish, which is
Mm.
where I learned to swear.
Yeah,
You know? And I enjoyed my time there, but I spent 10 years with the Irish before I finally moved here in 2010. But
yeah,
the point is, it was literally when I arrived in Dublin that more and more spiritual occurrences happened to me that I then really could explore because I come from a family of salesmen. And
mm.
the point is, in again, shamanically speaking, you decide to whom you are being born to, where and when,
Yes, yeah,
precisely. So, including the country, including the time. So you decide what star sign you're going to be. So what imprints you're going to have. You know, and it's interesting because when you look at imprints, so when you're being born, the universe takes a snapshot. It
mm.
becomes your birth chart, and
Yeah,
6 months before you're being born, which means 3 months into pregnancy, you can see some of the imprints already in your hand.
Ah,
So
interesting.
palmistry is very astrological.
Yeah, that's
And
super
what
interesting.
the ancient people would do when people would talk, and they would look at what they do with their hands,
Hmm.
just to see, okay, are you truthful? People would try to press their so-called Mercury mount just to find
Hmm.
the words. And we do this to this day. You can see when people are getting nervous, they don't get twitches necessarily. It's always in the hands.
Yeah,
So the
that's
idea
beautiful.
once was that people would just look into your pressure points.
Hmm.
And that meant that nobody would have to do the same work. There wasn't okay, everybody does the same bloody schoolwork, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
It makes no sense. Standardized tests and all this kind of stuff,
No.
nine to
No.
five, all these things that are really soul destroying are now
Yeah.
the norm. And one of the things that I do in my work is to encourage people to explore their spiritual side,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
And
definitely.
that's sometimes difficult because we have this idea that we need money. And I'm not saying we don't need it because we have created a world where I have to pay my rent.
Yeah.
But you cannot manifest money because money is not a spiritual currency.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
what I always say to the people is, so I used to live in Birmingham, which is a city that has about 1 million people. And
Hmm.
then in 2018, I moved to a much smaller place with 29,000 people. So obviously, logically speaking, I had much more opportunities work-wise
Hmm.
in a big city. But
Yeah.
I said to the guides, I'm not leaving here. I love it here, right? You make it work. And if you need me
Yeah.
to work harder, I will.
Yeah.
And now I'm just as busy here than I was in Birmingham. And the point I'm
Exactly.
making is I believe this is because I don't sway. The moment you think about, or maybe I should keep that part-time job until this sort of works, is why you're
Yeah.
not manifesting. Because the moment your brain goes into two areas, you're manifesting.
Yeah.
And I think it's because people are not determined enough to explore who they are, and they're always worried about something else. It makes
Yeah.
no sense because ultimately I've been living in different countries being self-employed,
Yes.
and yes, I used to be a team leader for UPS back in the day.
Hmm.
I will never make that money again. you know so you're in management somewhere, you have benefits, but they
Yes.
are just financial benefits, and I'm
Exactly.
still very much supported.
Yeah, it is a weird thing. Like what now I want to share it for the viewers mainly is that very often we get in the trap of fear, and we think like, oh, I have to be secure in this thing, so I have to keep this part-time job so I have something. But actually you limit the growth in that
Totally.
time, because energetically you are not in the vibration of abundance. So once you really go for what you really want to do, and you do your best every day for that, it will happen, it will manifest. So be more brave in doing what your soul is telling you to do, and
Yeah.
don't buy this crap that the society is telling you,
Yeah,
that
and the
you
problem is
need to
that
make
we're all coming
money.
from people that are also, they all grew up being told,
Yeah.
right? And it always surprises me that when I talk to certain people, when I do my readings, and they have daughters, they want them to sort of all have doctors or lawyers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I always wonder, don't you care that they love them, right?
Yeah.
And then you realize when you look at history, that's what the royals did all over the world. They would marry into other kingdoms to
Yeah.
sustain themselves, and then people figure out who they could match with you, and you have no say in it,
Yeah.
right? Which is
Yeah.
so, again, it's so soul destroying.
It
And
is.
then
It
and
is.
then you come back again and again because we're also responsible for our ancestry pain and trauma for seven
Hmm.
generations, which is about 224 years. And when you go back into history, let's just go, we go back just 75 years. If we were married and you looked at me the wrong way, I could have you admitted.
Yeah.
If you
Oh wow.
dared to leave me, there would be no support from any government.
Yeah.
And your own parents very likely wouldn't speak to you,
Yeah.
right? So people had to stay longer in relationships that they didn't want to be in and they couldn't escape. So there's a trauma, and then you come here, right? Pretty young, right?
Yeah.
And the same crap will happen to you because your job is to say, no, F off, I'm not doing
Yeah.
it. But it will come
Yeah.
to you because you agreed to be part of that ancestry.
Yeah, exactly. And you believe everything that you are programmed
Absolutely.
to believe.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
And I think that's the hardest part is for people to understand what real freedom means,
Yeah.
right? And also, no matter what you do with your time, because we have agreed to come back time and again to learn things, no lifetime will be easy,
Yeah, exactly.
right? I mean, you could have
Yeah.
a life off, and I don't mean in a bad way, but you could just, go to work, do any crappy job you want, watch TV and die, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's your choice. You have free will,
Yeah.
but you wouldn't have achieved anything, and you wouldn't have sorted anything,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
so and then the other thing that it does is I'm a very lively guy. I'm always all over the place, and if I can meditate, then everybody can.
Yeah.
So there were
Yeah. And
times when I
if I
thought,
can meditate,
yes,
everyone can. Like,
absolutely,
I
because there were
promise
times
you.
there were times when I thought, I'm never going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And
I
then I
had the
just
same.
realized that this is what I've been told.
Yeah.
Because obviously, I am lively, and then always being told, sit still, do this, it was always in a negative connotation.
Yeah.
And so
Exactly.
eventually you lose these the faith
Yeah.
in your own abilities.
Yeah. And you just have a belief that, oh, I'm just not good at it. But no
Absolutely.
one is good at it. Can you go and run a marathon without practicing? No, you can't. Like,
Absolutely.
it with everything you have to practice, and
Absolutely. And you
that way
always
we
have to put
grow.
that's what I meant earlier when I said take responsibility for your own life. You have to put the work in.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
This is how this works. You have to put the work in. Nobody
Yeah.
gets you anything. The world doesn't owe you anything.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
and it is easy to lose track of that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, definitely. And for example, I have noticed because now I create a lot of content for Instagram for people to understand these stuffs and to really get ideas and to start growing.
Mhm.
And what I have a feeling that many people just want to feel happy. And with some challenging videos, people are like, well, it's not that some people comment and they are very involved, but usually like only the happy mood videos get like a lot of responses
Always,
and hearts.
yes,
And like that's a weird thing that in this society we have this idea that we have to be all the time happy, and someone else has to make us feel good. And that's
absolutely.
why like if someone is telling you a truth, you can be very offended and mad about it.
Yes,
and
but it's also
and
interesting because obviously happiness is an inside job.
exactly.
You
Like
know,
no one else can make you happy. The only way you can be happy is to really know yourself and
yes,
to,
and then the other truth is that once you understand vibration, that everything is a vibration, and that we're part
exactly.
of the vibration, then the idea is to look at the things that are not working, to help
Yeah,
to higher that vibration. I had
exactly.
a World Conservation radio show for 10 years.
Mm,
Sort of was an animal rights slash world conservation show, and I
yeah.
did 500 shows, and I talked to people from 43 countries. So there is not one place where everything is fine,
Mm,
you know.
yeah.
And there was a new radio station in Birmingham a couple of years ago, and they were interested in me doing my show there. And then
Yeah.
I said, well, I'm actually I just recorded something that we could air first, and then it was an interview. I can't remember with whom it was. Must have been about 2011 about animal brothels in Europe.
Mm,
And when they listened to that, they said, okay, sorry, we rather have another show on. Right? It would have been easier if I had just talked about dog training or cat training or fluffy
yes.
things.
Yeah, exactly. But when you go to
You
the
know,
deep issues, people are like, oh, this is too
absolutely,
brave.
absolutely.
Not,
And
not,
the
not,
whole
not, not.
point is,
Yeah.
it is the deep issues that we come here again and again and again to
Yeah.
explore and then learn from them. So there is no other way, literally, than to go through it.
Exactly.
And I think the hardest
Exactly.
part for people is not wanting to go through it. And because people are not aware how to be lighthearted, which is another really important thing in my work. I always try to be lighthearted, even when I do very serious thing and difficult things, because I
Yeah.
always believe your energy is everything.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. It's
but a lot of
everything. It
people
dictates all
once
your life.
absolutely, and once people have problems, they tend to believe that this is the only thing that they have.
Yeah.
Right? And they say that, oh, my life is full of blah blah blah, and it's all this and all this, and then you realize, yeah, but you just had breakfast. How was it? Did it taste nice? What did you have? They look at you like, what are you talking about my breakfast for? So because you
Yeah.
nourish yourself. So for as long as you're interested to nourish yourself, why don't you nourish your soul? The body houses the soul, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Exactly.
just redirecting them.
Exactly.
But initially
Exactly.
they look at me like, why are we talking about my breakfast for?
Yeah.
And it is about the mundane things where people trap themselves into believing this is the totality of their reality.
Yeah.
When people
Exactly.
sort of come to me and they are very unhappy with their jobs, that's normally how it starts. People are very unhappy with their jobs, and then eventually it gets too much, and then finally they look into spirituality, because there's a side to
Yeah.
us that's very spiritual. And it is really interesting when they truly believe that without that job that they have, they couldn't go on. And I say to
Yeah.
them, like, what if you reverse it? If you came to work today and they said to you, like, sorry, we're super broke, there's no more money, no more job. The
Yeah.
day after, you would not be under a bridge. You would find a way to talk to your landlord. You would find a way to talk and make other plans.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But people don't see that. They just
Yeah.
see, and this is also why a lot of companies have so much power.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
You know,
And it's about like your brain can either see the things that are wrong or the things that are possible. Like
absolutely,
you have basically like two options, and you can in every moment you can choose. Like what are
absolutely,
you thinking? Do you want to see the possibilities, or do you want to see the threats or the stuff that is bad?
yeah,
And that is a matter of practice. Again, like meditation
absolutely.
or like running a
And what
marathon,
happens as
it's a
well
matter
is,
of practice.
once you
Yeah.
start practicing this, you will notice that the majority of your so-called friends are the people that are like you before you changed.
Yeah.
So reality is, when you actually then embark on finding who you truly are, you will make new friends, but you will lose some of your old friends because they're not growing the way you grow. And I think
Yeah.
people subconsciously know it,
Yeah.
right? And so the story that I always hear from fellow healers is, we only have friends that are sort of healers. Very rarely do we have regular folks, right? If that makes sense, because we're
Yeah.
not on the same vibration.
Yeah.
And I always say
True.
to people, don't be afraid, because the only
Yeah.
constant in the universe is change,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
I
And
always
it's
say
an
to people,
illusion
change
that
is
we,
inevitable.
yeah, and it's an illusion that we could somehow like always stay the same. It's
Absolutely,
it's 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 not impossible. It's not possible. Like either you go and you change, or then something happens and you have to change. Like that's
absolutely. And the
like
universe is
the thing.
relentless because we agreed
Yeah,
to do all this.
exactly.
And it depends. People can take it much further. I do other things like numerology reports, where in numerology the easiest way to find out whether or not you're with the right people, or why you're in that family, and if you have people in that family of yours that are your teachers, or you are their teachers, is about overlapping numbers. That's easiest to look at in numerology. And
Yeah,
then when it comes to why am I here, I always say to them, like, well, that is in your imprints. So where the North Node is, in what house she is in, tells you why you're here. The problem is, it's underwhelming because you have
yeah,
all these many lives. So people think they have to be here to be George Clooney, and they're not. You're not here
yeah,
to have this massive thing to do,
yeah,
right? You're oftentimes here for small things, but they're not
yeah,
small things at all. If your job is to be who you are, that on paper that looks like, okay, so what does that even mean? It means that you override who you're not, which is a lifetime's work.
yeah,
But I noticed this
yeah,
when I sort of do this, because obviously write about all the planetary positions, and then the North Node is just one of them. And people always say like, that was really underwhelming. Yes, it is, because you're not that important.
Yeah.
You are the most important person in your energy field.
Yes.
Right? But we don't come here to govern countries.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
It is energy that gets us there if we're being called upon, then, if that makes sense. But I have not yet met a person where the North Node told me, oh yeah, you have to be a chancellor, or you have to be a president. For the most part, people can see, that they're counselors and teachers and healers.
Yeah.
It's just, unfortunately, there's this really big divide between what people think, and then we have these stereotypes. People have opinions about who and what we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I have even had a lady saying to me, "How can you be a Reiki master if you're not Japanese?" And I was like, "That's very interesting."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like nationality would have anything to do with it.
Yeah. It's very interesting. But I hear the same thing when I talk about shamanism. Because again, it is a term, and because people hear shamanism and then they think about Native Americans, and I am from Frankfurt, so there's nothing Native American about me.
Yeah.
Apart from the fact that I work with spirit guides that happen to be animal guides. And that these studies came to me, and so now I'm doing the rituals that they all once knew. Right? So I'm just carrying the torch.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
If people then go and want to badmouth it because I'm just not Native American enough. I even have people, because I can't see it, but I have long hair. Right? And every time I wasn't in employment, I had long hair. It's just my preference. And people actually say to me, "Oh, now you look the part." And I was like, "What part are we talking about here?" And interestingly, there is evidence in healing that suggests that when you have long hair, it changes how you look at yourself. So people researched why back in the day people wore wigs with long hair, right? As authoritative figures and stuff. Even though I don't really care all that much about it. The point is, when I lived in Frankfurt, it's a big city, and when I had short hair, people would ask me for money. And when I had long hair, they would sometimes just say like, "Oh yeah, I see you coming here with your bike every day. Let's have a beer." And you would sit with homeless people and have a beer, right?
Right.
Because you have these kiosks, they call it in Germany. So you just come out of the woods and there's this mobile stand where you can just buy stuff. And they would all hang about there, and then they would sort of convince you that you have to buy them a beer now, right? I mean, but the point is that didn't happen to me when I had short hair.
Interesting.
And
that's immediately how they were reading you, like what kind of.
And people ask me. I'm very clumsy, and I know my limits very well. So I had decided that I wanted my walls here in different colors. So I have them in yellow and green and stuff. And I had hired 2 guys to do that.
Yeah.
And so when I then showed them the colors and told them what I want, this one guy says, "Are you a hippie?" And I was like, I don't even know how to answer the question. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. I don't know. Right?
Yeah.
But in my mind, I was like, so just because I have yellow walls instead of white makes me something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's very funny how we immediately assume things about each others, and we put the others in the boxes, and we kind of already judge them before we even let them speak. So
absolutely. Partly it is because we are animals, so it is easier once we can read people. It's about assessing the danger that is around you and stuff. The problem is we always get it wrong.
Yeah.
Because most of the time people act a lot. It takes months, maybe even longer, to get to really know a person.
Yeah, it's true.
Because everybody wants to be safe, so everybody has a persona, or most people have a persona that they carry around.
Yeah.
And it's understandable, but it's also very sad.
It's very sad because that actually prevents you from the true happiness that you can have. Like, how much energy does it take to like build up something that you have to hold together because it's not you.
Oh yeah,
That's a question.
it's
Like
absolutely. Which is
I
also
have,
why people are feeling lost when they then say,
yeah,
no more. I want to know who I am. So the moment you actually do spiritual work again is an umbrella term. But the moment you invest in yourself, which is the first step, you're looking at yourself, you're doing it just for yourself. You're not doing it because there's money in it.
yeah,
You're doing it just for yourself. And you then experience, oh my God, this really helped me. Right?
yeah,
Because most of
exactly.
the things that we do are thousands of years old, and Western medicine is less than 500 years old. So it hasn't been around forever, and people survived the other
Yeah,
modalities. So whatever we do is not new age. If it is
yeah,
anything to do with age, it's old age,
yeah. It's the
right?
ancient age. Yeah,
Absolutely. But people have all these terms, right?
yeah,
New
that's
age
true.
hippie is probably what I would be classified as or classed as.
Yeah,
It's quite interesting.
well,
But the
well,
hardest thing I find for people is, and this is the point that I'm always trying to make with people, just be prepared when you get to know yourself for the first time in decades.
mm,
You will notice that the people around you don't know what to do with you,
yeah,
right?
that is true.
And the hardest thing for people is to go back into an environment where they then feel, wow, I'm changing here. So there is an
Yeah,
isolation all of this, which is eventually what the universe is always saying, it takes time. You have to make space first. So learn to
yeah,
let them go, and then you can repopulate your energy fields with people
yeah,
or situations and vibrations that fit yours.
yeah,
But it's a process.
exactly. It's a process, and it will start happening automatically also. Like
Yeah.
once you become more and more the person you are
Mhm.
truly,
Yeah.
also the universe is based on your vibration. It's gonna give you matching people, matching circumstances,
Absolutely.
matching jobs. So actually your the beginning, the jumping from the uh, old life to the authentic and
Yeah.
real you is super scary, and it will take a lot of self work, because you will encounter a lot of fears, a lot of
Yeah.
resistance, but it's the biggest gift you can give to yourself,
Absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
because after that, like, you are so much more content with your life every
Yeah.
day, because you know that you are living based on your values, based on what you are here to do, and based on like what authentically resonates with you.
Absolutely.
So
And also the universe can only answer you on your vibration. So just like you just
exactly,
said. So if you then go and are not looking into who you are, then all you
yeah,
manifest is things that you are not.
exactly,
And
yeah,
so here in Canada where I live, there's a shop that I sort of often work at, and we do development circles where we literally just, people just pay a tenner, and it's sort of twice a month, and then
mm,
we just expose them to all the sort of modalities that are out there, so
mm,
that they don't have to study everything, so you can just see, this is for me, this is not for me. And then when you're part of a circle, you're part of a tribe, and
yeah,
everybody's there for a different purpose, but they're all in the same room. And then people realize, oh my God, I don't know any of these people, but somehow these are my people.
yeah,
And it
yeah,
is quite surprising for people. So I always say to people, even if nothing would be for you, even if you say, no, I don't want to do this, no, I don't want to do this, no, that's not for me, right? Let's just say worst case scenario, you come there, spend all that money, for nothing.
yeah,
You still are being exposed to energy that is more in line with who you truly are,
yeah,
probably for the first time in your life. And
yeah,
it is, no matter what
definitely,
you do, you study a new modality, it is still a journey of self-discovery,
yeah,
because
yeah,
you didn't know what this does to you,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, definitely, and only by surrounding yourself with the people of the person that you are becoming, that's the only way of learning how to be that person also,
Absolutely,
because they
absolutely.
they don't only give you the wisdom by words, they also they radiate the the ideas, and that's why people are looking for gurus or teachers.
Yeah,
It's not that they will get the words, because they can get the words from the books, but they get the energy
yeah,
of that person, and that
absolutely,
will elevate the vibration. So
absolutely. And I always find sort of, when people sort of they put you on pedestals. So just because you study something, you finish it. I remember in 2006, I was just, not just, but I studied and I did my shamanic work, and all of a sudden they gave me the title of Master Shaman.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, thanks. And then for years, I just wouldn't use it because I don't know what it means, right?
Yeah.
And I even had journeys to my guides to talk to them about shamanism. And they were looking at me like, what are you talking about? It's medicine. Didn't even understand the term shamanism. Right?
Yeah.
You're like, what's this? You know, I mean, they do know it, but they go, no, it's medicine. Everything's medicine. Everything you do is either healing or damaging. It's all medicine. But the point is, in this world, every time I'm being interviewed, for instance, or I'm going somewhere, people need to somehow put it in their blurb about who is on the show. And apparently, when you type in shamanic healer, which is sort of the only term I sort of use, right? Because I do shamanic work most of the time, so I call myself a shamanic healer, right? Because I do healing work. And the moment you use these weird terms, the moment people tune in.
That's
so
interesting.
I used to work a lot with animals, you know, because but I take animals over people any day. Right. And you know, you do Reiki, for instance, and you do Reiki on a person, and the person books you. And the treatment, let's just say, is 40 minutes. And 20 minutes you need just to let that for that person to get open.
Yeah.
So they book you, but they're blocked. And then I can do Reiki on an 800-kilo horse in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
And it's something really special about these things, right? But I used to work with animals a lot, and I worked on a lady's animal who had some issues, and then she says like, "Oh, I have a radio show where we do readings, you know." And because I do readings, and I was like, "Okay, that's interesting." She said, "No, I want you on the show." And I was like, "Okay." And she was like, "So how do I introduce you?" Well, I said, "You know, my name is Thomas Janak." And she was like, "Yeah, but I can't just say we have the German fella from Dublin here." Right? and I didn't understand what she wanted from me. She was looking for me to give her some sort of title, and I didn't have any. So she said, like, "I'm going to introduce you as a psychic medium." Right? And I knew that was sort of the again umbrella term for what I did. But in my mind, I had watched, especially in Ireland, this Most Haunted thing. There's a TV show called, or was a TV show called Most Haunted. And they had a couple of psychics there, and they would always roll their eyes and go like, "Ooh, your grandmother is here." And I'm not knocking them, but it was very theatrical.
Yeah.
And I always hate that. Right? When people tell me, "Oh, you know, you're always wearing I have a Megadeth t-shirt on today." You can't see it, but the point is, I'm wearing what I feel comfortable with. So I don't wear fluffy clothes just because I have a fluffy job.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And so that always was a weird thing to me. But the point is, the moment that term, I put it then on cards, I got bookings.
Yeah.
And it's just the world we have created.
Yeah, it's actually very interesting that even in like the spiritual realm, people are so bound by titles, like
absolutely,
like and they kind of try to divide. So what are you doing? Like, oh, so
absolutely.
you are a shaman, you are a healer, you are a Reiki practitioner.
Yes, and it makes no difference to me because I do all these different treatments. And when people come to me, I do an assessment. So people come to me and they say like, I want this, so I talk to them on the phone first, because sometimes I feel like, you know, that's not what you need. Right. So for instance, I don't drive. So and the shop that I go to give my treatments is about 10 minutes away from me. And when I do sound healing, I have to literally put a ton of heavy stuff in a suitcase and roll it up the hill. So if it was about my life being easy, I would just offer massages and Reiki. But if I feel you need sound healing, then I will get my gongs down and my drums down and my singing bowls down, right? It is not about me. It is about what you need. But the point is, a lot of people have only heard of 2 or 3 things, and that's what they want. And so that's why that's why I still use the term shamanic healer, and I have a Facebook page, Shamanic Healer Thomas Janak, so I get all this. And I do free readings on on YouTube, monthly readings for star signs, and I also link that to my page. And it's always the same page, but I'm actually quite proud in a way that I have a bigger toolbox. So why would I then have to choose anything in my toolbox? It's all me.
Yeah, exactly. And
so it's really,
at least me, I use like several different healing techniques, and it's like they come always during the treatments. What I need to use in that moment, like everyone is individual, so I cannot just give the same pattern for everyone because it's not what they need. So I completely understand it. And what you said about this, that people don't know, there is not awareness about the healing methods. I want to tell to the viewers that this is why I'm doing this channel and interviewing other healers, so that you could know what is happening and what kind of healing methods there are and what kind of practitioners I have found, and so you can feel safe to try different things, because don't stick always with the same healer or the same stuff that you are doing.
And also I find
other
that
people
it's
have different stuff
a
to give
natural thing. You have people that come to you for years and then they find another healer, but it's not personal. They just need another vibration, another energy to work with. And you notice when people take that personally, then they're obviously not really ready to embrace who they truly are, because the moment I make it personal, so sounds a bit egotistical, but the point is, when people come to me for readings, I work for spirit. Medium is the guy in between, the guy in the middle. Right? That's what medium means. So I become sort of a parrot, if that makes sense. So the guys show me stuff in imagery because they're all done in words, and I try to translate it as best I can. And that's my job. And I don't even remember. About 3 hours later, I do not remember. Oftentimes, I don't even remember people. So I don't take it home, if that makes sense. So I would never take it personal. So because what's the point? It doesn't have anything to do with me just because a person that saw me once is now going to another person. It does not mean I failed. But it has to do again with the judgment in our societies. Right? And people go like this all the time. I must have done something wrong.
And it's about like thinking that resources are somehow limited. Like, now if I have this one customer, I have to keep it. It's not about that. We are here to explore and share and feel, and the right customers, they come to me because they really want to work with me just right now in this moment.
And the universe sends them your way, because obviously I lived in 3 different countries doing spiritual work. And when I moved from Birmingham to Cannock, which is about an hour away, people from Birmingham do not come to Cannock. Very rarely do I get one of my old clients coming over. I get them for readings because we do them online, but in person, very rarely. Right? And because I don't drive, I only use public transport. I also find it now much harder to actually go to Birmingham and do my circles there. Also, I'm quite busy here. But the point is, when I came here, I understood that immediately. So I said to the guys, okay, you make this work. And I always say the same things to them. I said, you make this work, and if you need me to work harder, I will. Right? And then I just basically sit there. And because I don't go into panic anymore, the universe will support me. And yes, energy is everything. So when you go to a new place, or when you change your job and you now study, let's just say you study, sound healing or anything, crystal healing, whatever you study, it will take a while for you to actually understand it. You could be a Reiki master and you're not a master at all. It's just a title. Right?
Exactly.
What you really need to do is put the work in, have the experience. It will take time. But the point is, once you are that energy, that's when you attract, energetically speaking and vibrationally, people that need it. And and that scares people, because they think, okay, when I do this, I have clients tomorrow. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
And it's not the most important thing to have clients tomorrow. The most important thing is for you to understand the modality you just learned, because the people are in your care. Right?
And it's about becoming that person.
Absolutely.
That person who is in that vibration of that healing modality, or that job, or that relationship, or that career. It's all about spiritual growth and becoming the person you need to be.
And also we're lucky in that sense, because when you do work for a couple of years, all of a sudden, literally, guides walk in. all of a sudden
Exactly.
you have new helpers.
Yeah.
And then depending on how you work, sometimes I'm lucky to see them, you
Yeah.
know. And I tell you a really weird story. It's my favorite weird story that I have with regards to guides. I
Mm-hmm.
have a couple of weird stories. So obviously, the only guides I ever knew I had, apart from the animal guides, was a Native American elder, which is still with me, um, and Mother Earth, which every time she shows up, she's the most beautiful woman you could ever imagine. Right? It's
Wow.
how she shows up. And when I saw her the first time, I saw her as a child, but I didn't notice her then. In
Yeah.
2005 or six, I studied shamanism sort of properly, and I
Mm.
came from Dublin and I studied it in England. And then Mother Earth showed up in this first journey, and they show her to you in her purity, which means they translate it into the divine feminine. And all of a sudden, you are seeing literally whatever. I didn't even know I had a type, but if I ever found someone that is 10 times out of my league and I still want to be with her, it would be Mother Earth. She's that beautiful, right?
Wow.
So when I saw her the first time, that was weird because she was bare-breasted. And I was like, guys, are you trying to set me up here? This was in a group, right? And there were 15 people and only two blokes. And
Mm.
I saw Mother Earth and go like, oh my God, she's hot. Right? She's really beautiful, and she's topless, right? And I didn't understand that this is her way of saying, you have to nurture yourself, nourish yourself. There was nothing sexual about it, but my
Yeah.
small brain was completely, I was completely out of it. And then when I
Yeah.
shared it with the other participants, they all had the same experience.
Yeah.
So I knew about Mother Earth for quite some time, and then um, I have a few very interesting guides. So when I started sound healing 7 years ago,
Mm.
um, obviously I didn't want to buy the sound tools that sort of come off the shelf.
Mm.
And also that was way before COVID, so you could just go to shops. And then also where I studied was in another place in England, and they had shops there. And I
Yeah.
had ordered a set of singing bowls that were handmade by a family in Tibet.
Mm.
So it took about 8 weeks for them to arrive,
Yeah.
right? Um, and I had a copper pyramid because I lived in a house then. So now I live in a flat, so I have no space for that stuff. Right? So I had to
Mm.
downsize. But I had a copper pyramid, and I put a cushion in the pyramid, and then charged the bolts inside the
Yeah.
copper pyramid. And
Yeah.
I had the first bowl out of the box and went into the pyramid. And all of a sudden, out of the wall, this guide or this guy shows up. It's like a male, like a person. And I didn't know he was a guide. I only understood it when I realized he comes out of the wall. And
Yeah.
he literally said to me, very fast and with an accent, he said to me like, "You're now a part of the wider shamanic. No, you're now part of the wider Tibetan community." And then he buggered off. And I was like, oh, "Okay, thanks." So there are guides that are
Wow.
just saying, "We got you. You're doing it. We're
Yeah.
doing this. We recognize you. Whilst you
Beautiful.
recognize us, we're working together." And it's a once in a lifetime experience. And then,
Yeah.
maybe 2 years ago, I thought maybe I should look into runes, right?
Yeah.
Which again, it's very Nordic. I have no knowledge of anything Nordic really, right? I've been to Sweden once and that's about it, right? So the point is, I wasn't exposed to it, but I thought like I
Yeah.
give it a go, and then so I ordered a rune set, and I didn't connect with the set, so I thought like, you know what, I'm gonna just order a wooden one, because
Mm.
I have in Germany we say I have two left hands and 10 thumbs. It means I'm all fingers and thumbs. I can't draw runes on stones or wood because
Yeah.
I couldn't even read what I'm doing there. So the point is I
Yeah.
ordered this set, and there was a guide attached to it. And
Wow.
all of a sudden I was sitting here using that set, and the guy showed up and he said to me, "Hello, I'm Larson." And I was like, "Hello, Larson." And he was like, "Larson." So he corrected me straight away because I obviously mispronounced his name. right? Which I thought was a bit funny, right? So,
Yeah.
so there was it's a guide with attitude. So I write astrology reports for people. So obviously it's easy enough to figure out where the planets were and what they mean. But then I sit with it and wait for the energy to tell me more so I can put this into your report. And
Yeah.
then every now and then Larson shows up. And I said to him, like, well, you could help me with my astrology. And every time I'm sort of lighthearted, he turns around and goes like, you will only address me when you do runes.
Ah.
Really weird guy. So I told him to F off, really, because he pisses me off, right? I said, what do you want from me? Point was, here's a story that is interesting. A couple of years ago, my father passed away. He was 90. And my father was a very difficult person. I don't have many great memories with him. But he was also a person that was sort of broken when he was very young. He ran away from home. Then he signed up to fight for the French Legion. He lost a war in one of those wherever he fought, and he was never the same, right? And I'm not saying this to give him some extra credit here, but I only knew him as a difficult and broken guy with a temper.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he had a class eye, right? And when he passed, I had a conversation with my sister in Frankfurt on the phone, and we talked about our father. And I said to her, like, it's a bit of a shame because we gave him so many options. Towards the end of his life, I was the only child he had that would still talk to him. All the others were alienated. So cut a long story short, I said to my sister, well, he's not going to be a guide anytime soon, right? And we started sort of laughing about it. I said, yeah, I don't think so either. And then, that's it. Now, this was about 3 years ago. Now Larson shows up, right? The rune guide. And all of a sudden he showed up one evening. I was doing, I can't remember what I was doing, but some work. And all of a sudden he said to me, look at me, look at me. And I got really annoyed with him because his energy is quite strong. He's very pushy.
Yeah.
And so I don't like him as a guide. I sorry to say, I don't like his energy. He's very in your face all the time.
Yeah.
Right? Which is interesting because apparently I'm the same. I've been told that by so many people because obviously here in England, when you're German, you stand out quite a bit. Right? So I think he mimics how I come across. So I can learn to be softer. The point is, he said, look at me. So I looked at him and he doesn't speak, but I could hear him speak. And he said to me, he pointed at his eye and he said, I lost my eye in a battle 600 years ago or 400 years ago, something like this. And I was like, good for you. I'm doing a bloody report here, right? I couldn't figure out what he wanted from me. Yeah. And he kept on going. And he said to me, I was a really dangerous man. And I was a really violent man. And I was like, okay. But I failed to understand why he would tell me all this. So I got a bit annoyed because he literally stopped me from working, which is quite uncommon because sometimes I struggle seeing my guides. And then literally he forced me to confront this. Yeah. So I got a bit annoyed. Anyway, I looked at him and then he said to me, you have no idea what your father is capable of. And then he bugged off. And I was like, okay, I stand corrected. How awesome is that? The very fact that he sent me a guide just to rip me a new one was incredible.
Wow.
Was incredible. Yeah. And maybe I needed to hear this because, you have bad experience with someone over 30 years, you put them in a box, which is what I did with my dad. Get that totally. And then this guide said to me, like, don't do that in a roundabout way. Yeah. Right? Which also goes hand in hand with my teachings. But I'm still human. Yeah. I can still get pissed off about the world, right? And then 5 minutes later, I can help someone through their trauma.
Yeah, right? Exactly. That's it. We are here all the time to grow ourselves too and learn more. And then when we learn, then we can help others learn and grow. That's how it goes. Yeah.
But this is one of my favorite things that ever happened to me.
Wow. Yeah, but that's a very powerful lesson
that's incredible.
of life.
Yeah. That's incredible.
Definitely. So how about you were mentioning the rituals? Like what kind of rituals do you do with your customers?
Well, I do a lot of circles, and the circles have because the circles are just a tenner. So if I have 10 people, so the amount of people is what sustains me. Is not. So the circles obviously are cheaper for people. So with treatment, when you need a treatment, you book a full treatment. But when you go to a circle, you pay a fifth of that price for 90 minutes, and I do whatever the guides tell me to do.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I have a plan. I sort of go like, I'm going to do this. This is going to be a great exercise. And then on the way there, the guide says, no, you need you to do something else. So I always have sort of a plan B. And so I'm big into rituals, and they can be simple. So for instance, again, going back to Native Americans, in Native American society, but at least back in the day, when you are 9 years old, you're an adult. So you're being held accountable for everything and anything you do. But you are still being talked to and taught in a childlike fashion.
Right.
And so it is about taking responsibility for your own life. Yeah. So for instance, when people come to readings for me and people say, I got a few questions, my guides who were elected elders when they were here, they literally bend forward and go, one question. But they're not meaning it that way. They're just saying to people, don't tell me why things are not working. I'm not interested. You want to change it, yes or no?
Yeah.
We're here to look at opportunities and possibilities. I'm not interested in why this hasn't happened for you in the last 15 years. And they literally go, it is not my fault that you're not learning and you're manifesting the same type of guy. Don't talk to me about the same type of guy. You want to go to the root of it, yes or no? So they have this in your face energy in combination with my German accent, I make it sound much harsher than they mean it.
Yeah.
Right? But I do believe that I gel well with them because I can actually do real change because I literally, without doing it physically, shake people awake.
Yeah.
Right? So the point is, in Native American, everything is owned by the woman. Right? So back in the day, when there was anything to do with land, it was always owned by the females of the tribe.
Yeah.
Right? Because the divine feminine is light years ahead of the divine masculine. Right? And you can see this in my work. I don't know about your work, but in my work, when I do circles, I normally have a ratio of 80-20, which means I have let's just say 8 women, 2 blokes. Right? And at least I got 2 blokes now. 10 years ago, there would be nobody.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I have to say that I actually have like quite 50-50, and I have been.
Oh, that's good. That's awesome.
I have been very, very like wondering about it because usually it's a lot more women, but with me, like guys also show up. That's very interesting.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's I just noticed it sort of in my work, and actually in the last couple of years, I get a much more gentlemen interested in the work. But the point was because the divine feminine is much more aligned with everything than the divine masculine. Everything was owned by the female.
Yeah.
Right. And so what happened was the male at times felt inadequate. Right, which is designed that way because the male energy is what we know as the ego.
Right.
And so the saying is, well, if you learn that you're not defined by what you have, you learn the lesson today, right? So, but they go on vision quests, and they get a little pouch, and they put soil in there, they put a stone in there, and they put sticks in there that they find on the way. And sometimes they have some little talisman in a little pouch that they take from home. And then they literally go into the woods for up to a week. And then they just hold the stick and ask, what do I need to know? And when they want to connect to their guides, they hold the stone. Very simple. Yeah. But it is just for blokes. It's just for male. It is a coming of age thing that they do called a vision quest. Beautiful. And what I do is I reappropriate it. Because I'm not Native American. I don't have to honor anything. I just say to the guys, look, wouldn't it be awesome if you all would know what comes next? Yeah. And then the guys go like, yeah, whatever. And so my next circle that I do next week, I will do vision quests. But everybody does them. So I will take out that masculine feel, right? And then literally do it the same way as if I did any other modality where I just try to help people to journey with their guides. Same concept. Right? Yeah. But you're using the symbolism, like the stick and the stone of nature. And it goes deeper because in England they have a saying, or it's just one of those English-speaking things, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words can never harm me. which is a lot of crap, because if I talk negative about you, you will feel it.
You will feel it, and also your words will come back to you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So the
So
sender, like, be careful of what you
but the
send.
point is, if I have negative things to direct to you, I can affect you, which is why that saying doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So here in England, they even have a saying that says, if you haven't got anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Yeah.
Which,
Well, that's definitely a good thing.
Yes and no, because if you never speak up, you can't solve stuff.
Well, yeah, in that way.
Right?
Like,
so there has to always
course.
be a balance. But the point is, I'm now using the sticks and the stones that can break your bones. So the term is, sticks and stones will break my bones, which means they will hurt.
Yeah.
I'm using them to not hurt. I'm using, you hold the stick and you say to the guides, without having to break your leg to figure out what's wrong, because the whole point is, you break your leg, you stop.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need to stop to actually pay attention. So there's a concept here. So I'm then doing exercises where I help people journey to meet their guides, and then ask the questions by using what has come from nature. And I take that liberty of completely turning it around. So I was thinking in my mind, oh my God, eventually I will get in trouble with my guides, right? Because this can't be shamanic, right? Whatever shamanic means. And every now and then, when I do things like this, for instance, when I kind of go like, okay, I'm going to make it my own, which is the whole point, right? You are unique, so you do make it your own. And I remember doing really weird stuff. It's not weird. It's just not necessarily how the ancients would have done it, right? Because I use a lot of astrology in my work. So I and neurology. So I put them into. I have numbers 1 to 9 on the floor, and I just ask them to put themselves where they feel they are at this point in time. And then I tell them what cycle they have chosen, and then I have a look. Does it actually fit with your age? Because life is cyclical. Right. So when you're being born, you have 9-year cycles. And the point is, most people don't live up to 99 years or 90 years, so they don't even reach the 9th cycle.
Right.
So I then realign where people feel they are with where they are energetically and where they are cyclically.
Yeah, beautiful.
Right? Yeah. And so I did this, and then I thought, like, whatever the heck this is, right? Because I was like, your mind goes like, I just come up with that stuff, right? And people love it. But I was like, oh, it's called a shamanic circle, right? So here was my self-doubt. On the way home, everywhere I went, it's only 10 minutes down the road, everywhere I went, were white feathers flying in front of me. Where they're saying is, yeah, we're proud of you, you did good.
Yeah, beautiful. Nice
and
symbolism.
Kind of like, yeah, that's good enough for me. But I'm big into rituals, because a ritual is as simple as saying, for today, I will not worry.
Yeah.
That in itself is a ritual, because you're reprogramming yourself without having to do much.
Yeah.
Right?
And you are putting like an intention, and that's
Absolutely.
already.
And in my mind, having a coffee is a ritual. Because
Yeah.
people tell you, if I haven't got a cup of coffee in the morning, right? Or I didn't even have time for coffee this morning, as if there's something missing. So because people are very ritualistic, which seems to be our nature still, right?
Yeah.
It's about doing more of that in a place that is designed for healing.
Yeah.
And I always find and this is probably, I don't know, I think you probably can attest to that, because that happens to most people that I talk to. You start out with one thing, and then the universe lets you know what is next. So they're pushing.
Yeah, exactly.
All of a sudden, you start another thing, and then you start another thing, and it's never ending.
Yeah.
Right? But you notice it's not because you're restless, it's because the universe thinks you have made progress. So the more you know, the more we can send you people that need deeper healing.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah.
And it's what I find interesting is that a lot of the times I have clients, and I kind of go like, I say to the guys in my mind, you must have a laugh. How am I supposed to deal with this? Right? Because they have faith. And I sometimes have days where, like, oh my God, this is really heavy. Right? And then I say, no, focus on what's here, and then you get through it.
Yeah.
But sometimes, because you go into this, oh my God, can I do this? Shows you that feeling inside you that comes from you being told you can't do this.
Yeah.
And it is interesting. Now I'm 55. Try not to look it, but I'm 55. Right? And you notice that you have stuff still from childhood after all
Yeah.
the shadow work that you did, after everything that is there. And that's also because we have all these lifetimes.
Yeah.
So there's no end. So what I do, for instance, because I do astrology, so one of the things that people can do is to just go to Google and type in your birth year, your year of birth, and then ask the computer, when was another year that had the same calendar, which means every day was the same day, it was just a different year. These years have the same energy because we have 7 days and we have 7 ideas about what they mean. So you have moon day, Sunday, right? So you have planet days, moon day, Sunday, and so every day stands for a planet.
Yeah.
So it's all about combining it. So what I always say to people, if you just find out in your lifetime, always do it up to 100, right? Write down all the years that the calendar is the same. And these are years where the energy flows the way it was when you were born. Therefore, if there's anything to do with your childhood trauma or things that happened to you in early life, because the energy is the same, you mark these years in your calendar. That doesn't mean you should wait until this year arrives before you work on it. But dealing with stuff is much easier because the year has the same energy. So for instance, in astrology, everything is numbers, right? Everything is numbered. Everything is sort of longitude, latitude. It's all mathematical, and it isn't. And the when we talked about the galactic year of 26,000 years, obviously the moon has 8 phases. And whenever you are born, that phase that you were born on your birthday will happen again on your birthday in 19-year intervals.
Right.
So if you know I was born under, let's just say the new moon, right? Then it will be 19 years before the new moon happens again on your birthday.
Right.
So you can then go 19, 38, and so on. And so the numbers alone tell you when the energy that you carry with you that year is stronger. And it doesn't cost anything. It's just knowledge.
Yeah.
And then and so when I do astrology reports, for instance, for people, I always put that in. These are the strongest years. For instance, when people are born in a leap year, it means nothing to anybody. But leap years are, energetically speaking, higher years. So a leap year is seen as more spiritual. So if you happen to be born on a leap year, your spiritual side by default is more awakened.
Wow,
And
beautiful.
right? And so directing people to that knowledge is all it takes.
Yeah,
Right?
that's great.
And every planet has a healing frequency. And if you have a governing planet, which every star sign has, then that energy that this planet has to keep that planet healthy is now yours because you have that imprint. And all people need to do is go to YouTube and say healing music in, and then you type in the frequency. And sometimes it's like drone sounds, you go like, that kind of stuff. It's not always pleasant music because some of these vibrations are weird. So they're not super harmonious because the idea is you take out what you no longer need. So the sound can't be harmonious unless someone writes stuff in that pitch, right? So there's different ways. But the point is, that vibration is your natural vibration because you are that star sign, because you chose to be born in that star sign. And that is all ancient knowledge. In the 13th century, when you go to if you went to a university, anything to do with communication would be called Mercury class. So it was all named after planets and what they mean for you. And people would have been given a birth chart at birth, so they could then say, like, okay, around that time, this is the downside here. This is the upside. This is where I have to have teachings done. So it's quite interesting because that also came to me quite late. I was always interested in astrology and dabbled in it, but I don't sleep too well. Sometimes I have a bit of insomnia, and I've had it for the last 30 years. Sometimes I just sleep like a rock for months on end, and then I have phases where I just don't sleep well. So then I can write the astrology reports for hours on end. So it came out of this. Well, what am I going to do now, right? So it came out of this idea. But the point is, there's so many things that people can look at.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a matter of finding out what is it I need to know, and this starts with when people have to acknowledge what happened to them. Right? So did it start in this lifetime? So when people say to me like, "Oh, I have no reason, but all of a sudden I'm scared of heights," and nobody in my family is. Well, if nobody in your family is, then obviously it's not ancestry. So it must be a past life.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
So when you then go to past lives, that does not mean that you experience the fear of heights in that life. The universe sends you into the life that they feel you need to experience.
Yeah.
But whatever you experience there has triggered this trauma.
Yeah.
It's just because people are very black and white. So they go into a lifetime and then, they feedback what happened, if that makes sense. And they were never off the ground. It didn't come up. I said it doesn't have to come up because it's not about reliving it. You go in as an observer. So there's conceptually things that people need to learn. And one of them is to be in the now. You go back into another time. Every time has a specific feel. And it is always the same. You have clients and they have done this for the first time, but they travel quite well. And all of a sudden they go like, oh my God, I'm wearing this and I'm looking like this. And there's this word I've never heard, right? So I always say to them, like, do you know what they call you? And I had a lady, she gave me a name that I had never heard of. And I wrote it down, right? And I said to her, I'm gonna address you now by that name, right? Because the way I do past life regression, I don't do hypnotherapy. I go journeys. So it's a guided meditation. So I know where they are and we can converse and I can send guides if needed. And then later we looked up that name, and that name was exactly from the region she was in over 1,000 years ago.
Interesting.
And I had another client. She said to me like, "Oh my God, I have a white face." I said, "Okay, what does it mean? I have a white face." "Oh, I'm Japanese," right? And she was like, "Oh my God, I think I'm a geisha." And I said to her like, because I studied Japanese years ago just for fun. Can't remember a thing. Probably can order coffee or something in Japanese. That's as far as my skills go. But I said to her like, well, the main place for geishas back in the day was Kyoto, right? So, but I didn't say that to her because I didn't want to say to her, you can't program them, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden she said like, oh, that smell, but I quite like it. I said, what are you smelling? She said like, there's red lacquer everywhere. Right? And so I wrote that down because every time the journey, I write down bullet points and then type it up for them. Right? And the point was, she then was so interested in it that we Googled it before she left for the treatment. And the geishas lived in areas where all houses had red lacquer because they were all wooden houses and you had to make sure that they're not rotting.
Yeah.
It just so happened that in these areas, which were working class areas actually, it was red lacquer. So the point is she had no knowledge of any of these things, neither did I. And then you go to a place and it is your past life and you say, there's a person here, it's my mom, and you just know. The moment you go like,
I have had this experience many
and when you
times.
then go, how do I know? You lose connection. The point is you just go. Be in the now, explore it, experience this, which is why I say to them, let me try to guide you. And I write down everything you say. And then we analyze it later.
Yeah.
But the point is, all these modalities are there for people to get help.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely. And it is beautiful to go to the past lives because the kind of knowing you have about them it's not that it's something else than that you are just imagining things. It's like a deeper way of knowing. It's an existing in that realm at that moment.
Yes, absolutely. And also,
and it's
when,
powerful.
when
Yeah.
people say all the time, I think I made that up, then I say to them, well, all you need to do is to remember what you told me. You were in that place roughly in that year, and then
Yeah.
you literally just Google, right? You can
Yeah.
even, not the biggest fan of Wikipedia, but you can even find clothes from the 15th century on Wikipedia, right?
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
and when they look it up and they told me what timeline they thought they're in,
Yeah.
not once have I had people that didn't have matching information.
Yeah.
So therefore, you were there. How could you
Yeah.
possibly know? And also the intricate details. How could
Yeah.
you have possibly known? And so I say to people, it's so easy to doubt yourself, but why would you even go there,
Yeah.
right? Because you've been there, you saw it, right?
Yeah.
But I think
Exactly.
the problem is because people they don't know what to put it against. Once you have had 2 or 3 regressions, you know how it
Yeah.
feels. And
Yeah.
therefore you're much more aware and you're much more willing to go,
Yeah.
which is
And you
the
are much more
downside.
confident that whatever comes, you can
Absolutely. So the
handle it,
first time
right?
can always be a bit dodgy,
Yeah.
you know.
Definitely. That's
So
true.
yeah. So that's another
Wow.
reason why I like exploring different modalities.
Yeah.
You know.
Definitely. Me too. I'm very interested
Yeah.
in all kind of methods that whatever helps the people. We
Absolutely.
are now approaching to the end of the
Yes.
session. We are in 1 hour 26 minutes
Yeah.
already. So any
That's
last
because I talk for England and Germany.
yeah, yeah. So any last words that you would like to share with the viewers today?
I think the only thing I would really like to say is that you are a spiritual being. It is inside you. You are just as spiritual than you are non-spiritual. And the
Yes.
two brain halves that you have, the analytical side and the spiritual side, are still part of the same brain.
Yes.
And there were times when people tried to literally, they knew it. The older generations, older people, ancients, they knew that we had a spiritual side and a analytical side that was divided by space. And
Yeah.
so when you look at it, it is the right-hand side that is the spiritual side. And what happened is when you give someone your hand to sign a contract, you would give them the right hand because it
Mm.
stops you from looking at it from an intuitive point of view because you're literally
Yeah.
taking the brain side, the analytical side, and transforming it to the right.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
That
And
is
and
true.
and while people say, well, it just happens to be that most people are right-handed, I get that. But that very thing that you do is
Mm.
designed to not let you see how you feel about it, which is why
Yeah.
contracts are by default a difficult thing to agree to because you don't feel it,
Yeah.
right? So the point I'm trying to make is that you're just as spiritual as you are non-spiritual. So if you
Yeah.
think I don't believe in any of this, all you need to say is like, yeah, I'm going to have a look at this.
Yeah.
When you are open-minded, you have no idea what stuff comes to you. Like I said, I told that story about Larson and about the Tibetan guy that walked in. That's just 2 of many stories. I'm really fortunate having had all these experiences. And also when you have them more than once, then you know there's a reality here. And it
Yeah.
also allows you then to trust it more. But trust comes with time.
Yeah.
Point I wanted to make before we leave here is for people to understand it is inside you. It's not something you
Yes.
need to be worried about or ashamed about, right? You are a spiritual being. Your intuition never lies to you.
Yeah.
You know who lies to you. You know who's not on your side, and you give second and third chances for no apparent reasons. So the
Yeah.
point is, once you are reflecting on who you truly are, it will open up doors. And the universe
Yes.
always says the same thing. We need more healers.
Yeah.
And
We
we
need
do
more
need more healers,
healers. Yeah.
right?
And
Which is also why I do development circles to actually help them become these people, right?
yeah.
Because I truly believe that the universe will look after me no matter where I am. So
Mm.
I don't train other people and then lose my job, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There,
Yeah.
again, there's another truth here.
Yeah.
So just want to say to people, don't be afraid of your spirituality.
Don't be, go and explore. I think that's a
Absolutely.
very, very good thing. And there is really, really nothing that can harm you. Like if you go with a good intention, if you
Yes.
send your intention to be pure and good, nothing bad comes out of it. So
Absolutely.
don't worry about it.
Absolutely. And you will always be sent difficult people for as long as they're out there because they need healing. Right?
Exactly.
So sometimes, when
Yeah.
you have really, really negative people come to you, and I know it sounds a bit egotistical, but sometimes I go like, wow, my life could be worse. It could be them. Right? And then
Yeah.
eventually I realize, once you sort of learn to redirect them, I sort of apologize because I said, my life could be you kind of stuff.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
sometimes you come across energies that are so self-destructive
Yeah.
that when
It
you
is
are in
true.
that energy, you don't feel good.
Yeah.
Right? But that's
Yeah.
all part of this job. I mean, we
It's
need
all
more
part.
healers,
Yeah.
right? And it's all
And those
versatile.
are the people who mostly need the help,
Yes,
right?
for
So
sure,
that's the thing.
for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely. So just the last question: did we have any animal spirits or spirit guides in this conversation today? Was there
Well,
anyone hanging out?
to be fair, even though I don't see them, I have to really tune in. The point is, wherever we go, my guides are all spirit animal guides, and every person has a spirit animal guide. What happens is you have so-called permanent ones that have been with you throughout all your lifetimes. There are
Yeah.
meditations for you to find them, right?
Yeah.
Because see what my guides don't do, unfortunately, is they don't show them to me so I can say, oh, you got this one, right?
All right.
And the reason why they're not doing it is also because they want you to go and find them. There's specific places where you pick them up in shamanism. We have 3 worlds in shamanism, and in one world you literally go and ask for them to show up. But
Yeah. I
then,
actually,
as your,
yeah, I was on
as
a
your life
journey.
changes, as your life
Yeah.
changes, the animal guides change,
Yeah. Of course, that's
right?
natural. Yeah.
Right? Apart from the ones that are your so-called permanent ones.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
it was interesting. I was on a shamanic journey like I think a few weeks ago, and I got an animal guide, an owl from
oh,
there. So
yeah,
now I'm connecting with her.
absolutely. And remember,
Yeah.
owls draw auditory maps so they can hear the mouse in the undergrowth without getting caught. So
Ah,
one of the messages that the owl has is for you to understand, as long as you pay attention to where you want to go, you will not get caught,
yeah.
right? Which is sort of the owl's
Beautiful.
wisdom, right?
Beautiful.
Right?
Beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow, but this has been a very interesting interview. Thank you very much,
No,
Thomas.
thank you for having me. Really enjoyed it.
Yes, yes, and I will put Thomas's information in the comment box of this interview. So if you want to have an astrological reading or a shamanistic healing or maybe some Reiki or anything from this wide selection of Thomas's work, just feel free to contact him and feel free to comment and share this video and tell your friends about this channel so they
Absolutely.
will find
And I
find
will
here
share I will
too.
share it widely. Because the
Perfect.
one thing I
So
notice is when you're loud, and I'm quite loud as a person, it actually gets you somewhere because I'm not afraid to share,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So because there were also times where I sort of didn't feel, oh my God, if I share it's egotistical. No, it's not. We're talking about
No, no.
shamanic work and
Yeah.
spreading the word is important, right? And I
Exactly.
only work here. That's what medium means. I'm the guy in the middle. I only work here. So why not
Yeah.
share it? Right? So
Yeah.
so I have
Exactly.
absolutely no shame sharing this.
Perfect. So let's share this and let's have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you for watching very much, and I wish you all the best and see you in the next episode. And much love.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.